Joining us now, a man who probably is a little bit more confident and also substantive on how he approaches this fight ahead, is Congressman John Shadegg, the great state of Arizona, who is, he's in his, what term are you in now, Congressman? I lost count.
What term am I in? Glad to be with you. I'm in term number 8.
All right, so you're one of the old guard.
And I don't think it's a mean 2010. I think it's a great 2010.
Well, what do you make of these comments of the Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Steele, who apparently just doesn't think we're going to win the House? Republicans are going to win the House in November, and he says he's still in a period of assessment and analysis.
I think that you need to inspire your troops, and I think we can win back the majority, but I think we have to be very aggressive to do it. I don't think the way to do it is to say we're not gonna. I think the way to do it is to say we're gonna, but then start pushing our team to be more aggressive than we have been. I absolutely think we can win back the majority, but not with a defeatist attitude. Good grief, we're being given every break known to man, including 2 of them between yesterday and this morning.
I want to play again, and Charles, get that first Steele cut ready. I want to just play the soundbite to you one more time because, again, I want to make sure that conservatives are on the right path as we move forward in this year. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities, but there are a lot of pitfalls ahead, and leadership is going to be key in these individual races, Congressman Shadegg. I want to play for you again this exchange between Sean Hannity and Michael Steele. Let's listen.
Like I said, we're just now beginning to look at the races, and we have races where it hasn't been clear. Do you think he can take over the House? You think Republicans? Not this year. And Sean, I'll say honestly.
You don't think so?
Well, I don't know yet because I don't know who all the candidates. We still have some vacancies that need to get filled.
He went on to ask, well, we're ready to lead. And he said, well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
are you ready
how's he not knowing? How can he just now looking at him? We have been looking at him in the House from the beginning of the year. Pete Sessions is the chairman of the NRCC. He's working hard on race by race. But what we need, Laura, is we need an agenda. We need a 10 for 10, like you have proposed, or that 10 for 10, and get our hearts behind it and tell the American people, look, not only are the Democrats wrong in everything they're doing, but here's what Republicans will do. And that's where I think we are lacking. We need to set out a platform or a set of ideas that we're going to hold the nation to, whether they are easily attainable or very difficult, and say, look, this is what we believe in. This is what we fight for. I happen to like Laura Ingram's 10 for 10. If my more moderate friends won't go that far, let's get going and let's lay out an agenda. But if we aren't aggressive, if we aren't extremely aggressive, quite frankly, if we aren't more aggressive than we have been, at least on the House side in the last year, then getting there is going to be more difficult. But if we will get aggressive, if we will lay out an agenda, if we'll say this is what we believe in, then I think we're there. And that's why I signed the 10 for 10 pledge, and I think that's what we need to do, and we'll win.
Congressman Shadegg, we appreciate your endorsing 10 for 10, and we have 20,000-plus people on the website who've already endorsed it, people from like Steve Forbes and Marco Rubio and many other new candidates, new conservative thinkers out there who are just out there trying to make names for themselves, saying, look, I'm not part of the problem. I'm part of the solution. I'm here to listen to the people and not dismiss the people. And that's where I think Republicans have a real opportunity, Congressman Shadegg. And on the health care issue, I need you to give us the latest on what you know about this Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Harry Reid move to push this health care reform bill through without any conference, without any Republican objections. I'm not hearing enough Republicans during this congressional break out there on television railing against this secrecy, this lack of transparency. I'm just not hearing enough of them.
It's an absolute outrage. I picked it up day before yesterday and sent out an email to every single one of my supporters pointing out that, once again, don't pay any attention to what Nancy Pelosi or Barack Obama or Harry Reid say. Watch what they do. And here they are they're shattering every promise they ever made of open government. They're going to do this behind closed doors. They're going to do it to make sure that there is no Republican input. Now we learn they're going to do it with the votes of at least 2 retiring Democrat senators who will be critical to the passage of a bill that the American people clearly do not want. I think the American people should be outraged, and I loved the fact that C-SPAN came out yesterday and said, wait a minute, you said you were going to do this on live TV on C-SPAN. We stand ready to fulfill our part of that deal and broadcast the negotiations. How come you won't live up to your word? The answer is They don't believe in openness in government. They believe in an all-powerful government that they run from behind closed doors.
Well, the lack of Republican input, in part, is blamed on the fact that Republicans have been, quote, obstructionist and haven't sat down at the table. I think my friend David Frum and others have written that, well, look, if Republicans really tried, they could have been part of the solution here. And instead they weren't. And I'll just give you a chance to respond to that criticism.
Well, there are two responses. Number one, the door was never open. The claim is abjectly false. I've worked on health care reform probably longer than any member of the United States House of Representatives. I was introducing health care reform bills, including allowing people to shop across state lines. I did that 5 or 6 years ago. I was pushing individual choice in health care more than a decade ago. And when the president held his summit to kick this whole thing off at the White House, I was not invited. Indeed, the only Republicans who were invited were Republicans who would say nice things. And I'm on the Commerce Committee. It was written in the Commerce Committee, and the chairman of the Commerce Committee never allowed me, or for that matter, the ranking member of the Health Subcommittee or the ranking committee of the full committee in the room. Now, I do wish Republicans had come together and embraced a single Republican alternative earlier than we did. And I think that was a mistake not to do that, because it's hard for the minority party to gather focus when we have 3 or 4 or 5 bills out there. Although, in truth, Laura, 2 things remain true. One, the Democrats weren't going to listen. And 2, all of the Republican bills are virtually identical in any event. They all talk about insuring everybody through a refundable tax credit. They all deal with the issue of pre-existing conditions, and none of them involve a government takeover of health care.
Right, but I think I was talking to my friend Melinda Shadegg the other day, who's brilliant as a stay-at-home mom, but she's brilliant and a great writer, and she brought up that very point. She said, look, there's such an opportunity here, but what exactly are the Republicans embracing, and why isn't it like a simple 5-point health care plan that is just now part of the vernacular? It has to be part of the political vernacular, and I think it's not. You're right that most Republicans are embracing more of a free market approach to buying insurance across state lines and pre-existing conditions and expanding health savings accounts and tort reform. But it seems like there's not one place where people can go and say, okay, this makes sense. This is real competition. This is going to bring down the cost of health care.
Yeah, I agree. That would have helped. However, the media would have never publicized it, and it is absolutely false to say the Democrats would have allowed us to have a seat at the table. The only people they allowed a seat at the table were sellouts, which includes, in my opinion, the pharmaceutical industry and, quite frankly, the insurance industry, the health insurance industry, which is now going to have a gun at our heads, and we're all going to be forced to buy their product. That's as un-American as anything I have ever heard of in my life.
Congressman Shadegg, not to drag you into the mud here, but Janet Napolitano's performance, your former governor's performance after this Christmas Day attempted bombing of an airliner, and the administration's response in general to what we're seeing here as a rise of Islamic radicalism, your take?
It's pathetic, but it's consistent with what they've been doing from the beginning. I mean, for them to come along and say, well, we can't call it a war on terror, we have to call it an overseas contingency operation, what the heck is that? I think that Janet Napolitano's handling of the Christmas Day Detroit flight is shameful, and indeed a number of my Republican colleagues have been discussing whether we should call for her resignation. I quite frankly think if we weren't spread across the nation, that would already have happened as a group letter. For her to come on television and say this proves the system worked, when it absolutely proved the system didn't work, shows just how totally out of touch they are. But they will not call enemy combatants enemy combatants. This is an administration that does not get that we are at war. And trust me, I'm not going to defend Janet Napolitano. This is not her first mistake. She's done this serially.
So are you calling for her resignation?
Well, what I want to do is get a letter out there with a number of us so it's not just a hometown guy, but I think her conduct in how she handled this Detroit incident is inexcusable. As I point out, it's not the first time she's made this kind of blunder. She won't acknowledge this is a war, and I don't know how you have somebody in that job. I find it actually disgusting that on the one hand, as you pointed out in this conversation, the Obama administration is saying we are going to cram the health care bill through in an unprecedentedly partisan fashion and give you no opportunity, Republicans, in any way, shape, or form. But then the president, in his Saturday address, whines that we are being partisan and that we are not coming together in a bipartisan and common fashion on the issue of how we handle radical Muslims. I don't think he gets to have it both ways. I don't think he can be extraordinarily partisan on one hand and stuff it to Republicans and conservatives more than any other president in history on his domestic agenda, and then expect us to sing Kumbaya when his Secretary of Homeland Security says, well, this proves the system worked?
Well, just getting back hopping around a little bit, but getting back to the health care bill before we let you go, Congressman Shadegg, are you in touch with Congressman Bart Stupak and those 12 or so really committed pro-life Democrats who apparently are not going to sign on to anything that does not include Stupak language? At least that's what Congressman Stupak has said. Are you in contact with him, and are other Republicans really trying to work with those pro-life Democrats? I think that's critical here.
I think it's critical, Laura, but I think it's critical that people in their districts be in touch with him. I know Bart well. I think Bart will keep his promise. I think if the Stupak language is not put back in, Bart will not vote for this. But he's a group of 11 Democrats who voted with him who say they will not vote the other way. I quite frankly tell you that while I hope they keep their promises, I think we all need to be talking to them, because I'm not convinced those 11 will keep their promise. I had this concern before the Stupak language was voted upon the first time. It was my belief that Mrs. Pelosi would break her deal with Bart at the end of the day, and I think she will break that deal, and then the question is, will these 11 stand up to her?
Yeah. Congressman John Shadegg from the great state of Arizona, Congressman Shadegg and others will be getting together, I guess, to call for the resignation of Janet Napolitano. It's not just an Arizona demand for her resignation. There'll be others who will sign on, and we appreciate your work for conservatism, Congressman Shadegg, and your optimism and enthusiasm for the spirit of what we're seeing out there among the American people. Thank you for your hard work.
I think we're seeing 94 all over again. I'm excited.
All right. You take care. Congressman John Shadegg on The Laura Ingraham Show.